At my son's first Rams game, he stood in the front row of our family section, wearing his tiny Cooper Cup jersey, eyes wide with wonder. When the photos came back from my sister's professional editing, he'd been erased from every single frame. He asked me why he wasn't good enough to be in the pictures. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, but what happened next changed everything. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, thick and glossy, the kind that screams, "We paid extra for quality." My sister Kristen had been bragging about it in the family group chat for weeks. Got the Rams game photos back. They look amazing. Professional editing really makes a difference. I was excited, honestly. It had been Ash's first NFL game, his 6th birthday present. We'd scraped together money we didn't really have for tickets in the family section. My son had been bouncing off the walls for days beforehand, practicing his cheers, learning player names. Puka Nakwa became his instant hero after catching a touchdown right in front of us. The photos spilled across my kitchen table. Kristen had gone all out. Premium prints, the works. I smiled, reaching for the first one. There we all were, the whole family in Rams gear, SoFi Stadium gleaming behind us. Mom and Dad front and center, Kristen and her husband Greg flanking them, their daughter Elsie perfectly positioned with her hands on her hips like a magazine model. My smile froze. I scanned the image again, and again. Ash wasn't there. "Maybe it's just this one," I muttered, grabbing another photo, the one from the tailgate, all of us around the grill. Ash had been standing right next to Elsie, holding a plate of nachos, cheese sauce on his chin. I remembered, because Greg had laughed and taken the picture specifically to capture it. Gone. My hands started shaking as I flipped through them faster. The halftime photo, the post-game celebration when the Rams won, the group shot with the stadium lights blazing, every single one. Ash had been photoshopped out completely. Not cropped, not hidden, removed. Like he'd never been there at all. "Mom?" Ash's voice came from the doorway. "Are those the football pictures?" My throat closed. I wanted to stuff them back in the envelope, hide them, burn them. But he was already crossing the room, excitement lighting up his face. Let me see, let me see." He grabbed a photo before I could react. The change was instant. His smile collapsed, his little brow furrowed in confusion. He tilted his head, studying the image like a puzzle with missing pieces. "Where am I?" His voice was so small. I pulled him against me, but he squirmed away, grabbing another photo, then another. His breathing quickened, his movements frantic. "I was right there, next to Elsie. I had nachos. Don't you remember?" "I remember, baby. I remember." "Then where am I?" His voice cracked, eyes filling with tears. I looked closer at the images, my blood running cold. The editing was professional, expensive. The concrete where Ash had been standing was duplicated and stretched. Elsie's hand, which had been resting on Ash's shoulder, was now awkwardly positioned against empty air, the fingers slightly blurred where they'd been manipulated. A shadow extended unnaturally across the ground, a ghost of where my son had stood. This wasn't a mistake. Someone paid good money to erase him. Ash's hands trembled as he flipped through the stack one more time, slower now, hope dying with each image. Did I do something wrong? Is that why they took me out? The question shattered me. "No, baby, no, you didn't do anything wrong." "Then why?" A tear rolled down his cheek. "Why am I not good enough to be in the pictures?" I had no answer. Not one that a 6-year-old could understand. Not one that I could say out loud without my voice breaking into a scream. Across the table, my phone buzzed. The family group chat. "Kristen, hope everyone loves the photos. Worth every penny for professional editing. They look so clean now, so uniform." Uniform. Like my son was a blemish they'd airbrushed away. I picked up Ash, carried him to the couch, held him while he cried into my shoulder. His little body shook with sobs he was too young to have, hurt he shouldn't know existed. Behind us, the photos lay scattered across the table. Glossy, perfect, empty. And I knew, right then, this was the moment everything would change. I just didn't know how yet, but I would figure it out. because nobody erases my son and gets away with it. To understand why they erased Ash, you have to understand how we got here. You have to understand the Cabot family hierarchy and where I've always stood in it. Kristen was the gold child. I was the shadow. It started young. She got dance lessons, piano, competitive cheer. I got hand-me-downs and a list of chores. By middle school, the pattern was set in stone. Kristen's activities were sacred, non-negotiable. Mine were optional, which really meant non-existent. When Kristen wanted to attend a prestigious arts camp one summer, my parents liquidated a small investment account to cover it. When I asked to join the robotics club, Dad laughed. "We already spent our activity budget on your sister. You can find free hobbies." Free hobbies? Like I was supposed to be grateful for the privilege of existing in the same house? High school was more of the same. Kristen got a car for her 16th birthday, a used Honda, but nice, reliable. I got told I could walk or take the bus. When I pointed out that Kristen had gotten a car, Mom's response was ice cold. "Kristen earned it with her grades and her dedication. When you show the same commitment, we'll talk." I had a 3.8 GPA. Kristen had a 3.6, but her commitment counted. Mine didn't. The real kicker came with college. Kristen wanted to go to a prestigious university for their communications program. Tuition was astronomical. My parents took out loans, emptied their savings, made it happen. They beamed at her graduation like they'd personally invented success. When it was my turn, suddenly money was tight. "State school has a perfectly good engineering program," Dad said. "We can't afford private school again." I went to community college instead, working full-time to cover it. Worked my ass off, transferred to state school, graduated with a degree in civil engineering. No ceremony attendance from my parents. They were helping Kristen move into her new apartment that weekend. Kristen married Greg Biffle when she was 25. He came from money, worked in finance, had the kind of smile that looked expensive. My parents treated the wedding like a royal coronation. Open bar, destination rehearsal dinner, the works. They gifted Kristen and Greg $25,000 as a wedding present. "For your future," Mom said, tears in her eyes. I met Noam 2 years later. He was brilliant, kind, passionate about education reform. We talked for hours about Chomsky's theories, about how to make the world better. He made me laugh. He made me feel seen. We dated for 3 years before deciding to move in together. Marriage wasn't in the cards for us. We didn't need a piece of paper. But we needed help with rent in LA, where Noam was finishing his master's in education policy. I asked my parents for help. Not $25,000, just a few thousand to help with the deposit and first month's rent. Dad didn't even look up from his tablet. "We don't have money for that." "You gave Kristen $25,000. Kristen was getting married. That's different. That's an investment in a stable future. "And this isn't?" Mom sighed, like I was being deliberately difficult. "Kristen and Greg have a plan. They're building something. You and Noam are just playing house." Playing house. Like our relationship was pretend. Like I was pretend. We moved in anyway, scraping together every dollar we had. The apartment was tiny, a 4th-floor walk-up with a kitchen the size of a closet. But it was ours. 6 months later, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but it wasn't wanted. Noam and I talked for hours, mapping out how we'd make it work. It would be tight, really tight, but we'd manage. We loved each other. We wanted this. I told my parents at a family dinner. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Mom spoke. "Well, I suppose you'll have to figure it out." No congratulations, no excitement, just cold calculation about how this didn't fit their narrative. Kristen, who was sipping wine across the table, looked at me with something close to pity. "That's going to be really hard financially." "We'll manage." "Will you?" She glanced at our parents. "I mean, babies are expensive." I looked at Mom and Dad, waiting, hoping. Dad cleared his throat. "Kristen's right. This is your responsibility. You made this choice." When Ash was born, they sent a card, not a gift, not an offer to help, a card with $50 inside and a note, "Congratulations on your new addition." $50. They'd spent more than that on flowers for Kristen's apartment when she got promoted at work. Noam and I struggled. God, we struggled. Diapers, formula, daycare, it all piled up. I went back to work after 6 weeks because we couldn't afford more unpaid leave. Noam juggled classes and part-time teaching, coming home exhausted to help with night feedings. We made it work because we had to, but it was brutal.
Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. We see every single comment, and it means the world to us. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the story.
Then, when Ash was 2, Noam got his dream offer, a position with an education policy think tank in Washington, D.C. The pay was good, really good. It was everything he'd worked for. It was also 3,000 miles away. We tried to make it work long distance. We really did. Video calls every night, visits when we could afford flights. But the distance was corrosive. We grew apart in inches, then feet, then miles that matched the physical space between us. When Ash was 4, Noam met someone in D.C. He didn't tell me right away, but I could feel it. The calls got shorter, the visits stopped. Finally, he told me. He was sorry, he still cared about me, but he'd moved on. He sent child support, regular payments that helped, but he didn't visit, didn't call. Ash asked about his dad constantly in the beginning, then less, then barely at all. He learned not to ask questions that hurt. I couldn't afford the apartment alone. I worked full-time as a project engineer, but LA rent was insane, and daycare costs ate half my paycheck. I crunched numbers until my eyes bled, but the math didn't work. I had one option left, the one I'd been avoiding. I called my parents. "Can Ash and I stay with you? Just temporarily until I can save enough to—" "Of course," Mom interrupted, her voice warm for the first time in years. "Family helps family." I should have known it was too easy. When we arrived with our boxes and bags, I headed toward my old bedroom. The door was closed, which was strange. I pushed it open and froze. The room had been completely redecorated. Pink walls, princess bed, a vanity with a light-up mirror, Elsie's name in glittering letters above the headboard. "That's Elsie's room now," Mom said from behind me. "She needs her own space when she visits." "Elsie doesn't live here." "She visits every weekend. She needs consistency." "I lived here for 18 years. Mom's expression hardened. "That was a long time ago. Things change." They put us in the converted garage. Not even the garage proper, the storage area behind it. There was a small window near the ceiling, concrete floors, and barely enough room for a double mattress and a dresser. The walls were uninsulated. I could feel the cold seeping through in winter. "It's temporary," I told Ash, watching him look around the dim space, "just until we save enough." He nodded, but I saw the way his shoulders slumped. He was 4 years old, and he already knew he was getting the scraps. I paid rent, of course. "Do help with utilities and food," Mom said. The amount wasn't small. I was paying almost as much as I'd paid for our apartment, but now we had one room instead of our own space. Kristen and Greg lived 10 minutes away in a beautiful house, the one my parents had helped with the down payment for. 4 bedrooms, a pool, a yard where Elsie could play. When Elsie stayed at my parents' house, she had her own room, her own space, everything she wanted. Ash had a mattress in a garage. Every month I tried to save, but there were always expenses, always something. Car repairs I couldn't avoid, medical bills from Ash's strep throat, contributions to household expenses my mother insisted on. The number in my savings account barely moved. Meanwhile, Kristen posted photos on social media. New furniture for the living room, paid for by Mom and Dad, a kitchen renovation, partially funded by the best parents ever. A family vacation to Hawaii where my parents covered Elsie's expenses as their granddaughter treat. Ash asked me once why Elsie got to go to Hawaii and he didn't. I didn't have a good answer. I still don't. By the time Ash was 6, I'd managed to save $3,000. It wasn't enough for first, last deposit and moving costs, but it was progress. Another year, maybe 2, and we could get out. Then, Kristen announced the family Rams game outing. Premium tickets, family section, her treat. Well, Greg's treat, technically, but she was organizing it. I almost said no. The thought of spending a day pretending we were a happy, functional family made me want to vomit. But Ash overheard, and his face lit up like Christmas morning. "The Rams? Really? Can we go, Mom, please?" I looked at his excited face, at the way he bounced on his toes, and I couldn't say no. He got so few chances to be just a normal kid, to do normal kid things. If I could give him this, I would. So we went, and Ash had the time of his life. He cheered himself hoarse. He high-fived strangers. When Puka Nakua caught that touchdown, Ash screamed so loud I thought he'd lose his voice. It was perfect. One perfect day where my son got to feel like he belonged. Then those photos arrived, and I realized he never belonged at all. Not to them. He was just another thing to be erased, edited out, made invisible. But they made a mistake. They thought I'd stay quiet, stay small, keep swallowing their cruelty. They were wrong. I couldn't sleep that night. Ash finally dozed off beside me on our mattress, clutching a small Rams pennant I'd bought him at the game. In the dim light filtering through our high window, I watched him breathe, his face still blotchy from crying. My phone sat on the dresser, deliberately turned face down. I knew the family group chat was probably exploding with reactions to Kristen's photos, everyone cooing over how professional they looked, how perfect, how uniform. I thought about confronting them, imagined walking into the main house, throwing the photos on the kitchen table, demanding an explanation. But I'd learned years ago that direct confrontation with my family went nowhere. They had a gift for twisting things, making me the problem, the one who was too sensitive, who couldn't take a joke, who made everything difficult. No, this required something different, something they wouldn't see coming. I picked up my phone and opened a text thread I hadn't looked at in months. Hewitt Trevino, a friend from my engineering program who'd gone into forensic analysis and digital investigation, we'd kept in touch sporadically over the years. The message I typed was simple. "Hey, random question. If someone photoshopped a person out of photos, could you prove it was done intentionally or not just amateur cropping? Like, could you show it was professional editing?" His reply came surprisingly fast for 2 a.m. "Yeah, definitely. Editing leaves digital fingerprints. Why? You okay?" "I will be. Can we meet this week? Thursday lunch work? Rams Cafe on Wilshire?" Perfect. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. I didn't know exactly what I was planning yet, but I knew I needed documentation. Evidence, because one thing I'd learned from years of being gaslit by my family, if you don't have proof, it never happened. Morning came too early. Ash was quiet at breakfast, pushing his cereal around his bowl. He kept glancing at the door to the main house like he was afraid someone would come through it. "Am I going to see Grandma and Grandpa today?" he asked softly. "Probably. Why?" "Will they be mad at me?" My hand froze halfway to my coffee cup. "Baby, why would they be mad at you?" He shrugged, small shoulders hunching. "Because I wasn't good enough for the pictures. Maybe they don't want me here." The rage that swept through me was white hot. I knelt beside his chair, taking his face in my hands. "Ash Trevino Chomsky, you listen to me. You are more than good enough. You are perfect. And if anyone makes you feel like you're not, that's their problem, not yours. Do you understand?" He nodded, but I could see he didn't really believe it. How could he? When your own family erases you, what's a mother's words against that? I took him to school and headed to work, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to those photos, to Ash's question, to years of accumulated slights that I'd swallowed and ignored and rationalized away. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. When I finally sat across from Hewitt at the Rams Cafe, ironically decorated with team memorabilia, I slid the envelope across the table. He pulled out the photos, studied them with a professional eye. "These are really well done," he said after a moment. "Expensive work. Can you prove it?" He pulled out his laptop, took high-resolution photos of several images with a special camera, loaded them into some software I didn't recognize. For 10 minutes, he worked in silence while I destroyed a napkin with nervous fingers. Finally, he turned the screen toward me. See these artifacts here and these shadow inconsistencies? This wasn't just someone hitting delete. This was professional photo manipulation software, probably Adobe Photoshop with content-aware fill. The concrete pattern repeats here and here, which means they cloned it. And look at this girl's hand. The edge is artificially softened where something was removed. Can you write that up? Like in a report? He studied me for a long moment. What's going on? They photoshopped my 6-year-old son out of family photos, every single one. And he saw them. He asked me why he wasn't good enough to be in the pictures. Hewitt's expression darkened. Jesus Christ. I need documentation. I need proof that this was deliberate, expensive, intentional, because they're going to say it was just cropping or an accident or I'm being too sensitive, and I need to be able to prove them wrong. He closed his laptop, his jaw set. I'll have a full forensic report to you by Monday. Pro bono. Nobody should get away with that. That night, I stopped by my parents' house after picking up Ash from after-school care. Mom was in the kitchen, Dad in his office. Kristen's car was in the driveway. She must have stopped by with Elsie. I could hear them in the living room, Elsie's high-pitched giggle, Kristen's laugh. Mom, I said, keeping my voice level, can I talk to you about the photos? She didn't look up from chopping vegetables. Aren't they wonderful? Kristen really outdid herself. Ash isn't in any of them. Oh. She waved her hand dismissively. He must have moved. Kids that age never stay still. He was in every photo. Then he was removed. Edited out. Don't be dramatic. I'm sure it was just the angle or... I saw the editing artifacts, Mom. Someone paid to have him professionally removed. She finally looked at me, her expression hardening. Well, maybe if he'd been better behaved during the photos. He was running around, making noise. It's not our fault if the photographer couldn't get good shots with him in them. The lie was so blatant, so casual, I almost laughed. He was standing perfectly still. You know he was. I have the original photos on my phone. Then you have pictures with him in them. I don't see what the problem is. From the living room, Elsie's voice rang out. Grandma, come see my drawing. Mom smiled, that warm expression I so rarely saw directed at me. Coming, sweetie. She looked back at me. If you're going to make a fuss about this, maybe think about how it affects everyone else. We had a nice day. Don't ruin it. She walked away, leaving me standing in the kitchen shaking with fury. That's when I knew. This wasn't going to be resolved with conversations. This wasn't going to change because I asked nicely or explained how hurt Ash was. They knew. They knew exactly what they'd done, and they didn't care. So I stopped caring about playing by their rules. Monday morning, Hewitt's report hit my inbox. 20 pages of detailed forensic analysis with complete highlighted manipulation zones, shadow inconsistency measurements, and software signature identification. The conclusion was damning. These images show clear evidence of professional photo manipulation using industry-standard software with specific intent to remove a subject from family group photos. This was not accidental cropping or poor framing, but deliberate digital erasure. I saved 3 copies to different cloud accounts. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Noam. The phone rang 4 times before he picked up. K-Bot, is everything okay? Is Ash? Ash is fine, physically. I took a breath. I need to talk to you about something. There was a pause. Okay, what's going on? I told him everything. The Rams game, the photos, Ash's reaction, the family's dismissal. I sent him the photos and Hewitt's forensic report while we talked. The silence after I finished was long. When Noam finally spoke, his voice was tight with anger. They did this to our son. Our son? I'd forgotten how much I missed him saying that. I want to file for sole custody, or at least formalize our arrangement. I want it documented that I'm Ash's primary parent, that this is his home, such as it is. Because I'm going to confront my family about this, and I don't know how bad it's going to get. What do you need from me? Support, documentation that you agree I'm his primary guardian, maybe a statement about how you've observed my family treating him if it comes to that. You'll have it. All of it. Pause. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I left you to deal with them alone. You didn't know it would be this bad. I should have. I met them, remember? A bitter laugh. Send me whatever you need me to sign. And K-Bot, make them pay for this. For Ash. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the work parking lot staring at nothing. I had documentation. I had support. I had proof. Now I just needed a strategy. The answer came from an unexpected source. The next weekend, my parents announced they were hosting Sunday dinner, mandatory attendance. I almost refused, but something made me go. Ash, too. He was included in the invitation for once. We arrived to find the house full. Kristen and Greg, Elsie bouncing around in a new dress, several of my parents' friends, people I vaguely recognized from their church group, my Uncle Ramon, Mom's brother, who I hadn't seen in years. It felt like an ambush. We wanted to have a family gathering, Mom announced, all warmth and smiles. It's been long since we all came together. I sat on the couch, Ash pressed against my side, and watched them. The way they fawned over Elsie, took photos of her with my parents, asked about her dance classes and her friends. The way they barely glanced at Ash, didn't ask him a single question. Uncle Ramon noticed. I saw him watching, his brow furrowed. After dinner, he cornered me in the kitchen. "What's going on with you and your folks?" Long story. I've got time. Something in his face, maybe the genuine concern, made me crack. I told him a condensed version. He listened without interrupting, his expression darkening. "You still have those photos?" I showed him on my phone, both the manipulated ones and Hewitt's report. Ramon swore under his breath. "Your mother pulled the same shit with me and my kids 30 years ago. Different method, same outcome. Made my daughter feel like she didn't belong. I thought she'd changed. I was wrong." "What did you do?" "I cut her off. Didn't talk to her for 5 years. Probably should have made it longer." He looked at me hard. "You can't fix people like this. You can only protect your kid from them." "I'm trying, but I'm stuck here until I can save enough to..." "How much do you need?" I blinked. "What? For first, last, deposit, moving costs? How much?" "I can't ask you to." "I didn't ask. I offered. How much?" I did quick math in my head. 8,000 would do it. He pulled out his phone, started typing. "Give me your account number." "Ramon, I can't..." "Ash is my nephew. Your mom might want to pretend he doesn't exist, but I don't." He looked up. "Let me do this, please." Tears burned my eyes. "Why?" "Because someone should have done it for you years ago. Because you deserve better. Because that kid out there deserves a family that doesn't erase him." He finished typing. "Account number?" I gave it to him with shaking hands. The transfer went through before we left that night. $8,000. Enough to get out. Enough to start over. I hugged Ramon so hard he laughed. "Go build a good life, and don't let them convince you that you owe them anything. You don't." That night, I started apartment hunting. Found a small 2-bedroom afterman in a decent area, affordable on my salary. Put in an application. References, employment verification, the works. I didn't tell my parents. The approval came through the following week. Move-in date, 3 weeks out. I started packing in secret, a little at a time. Clothes, books, Ash's toys, storing boxes at work so my parents wouldn't notice. Getting everything ready for a quick exit.
If you're enjoying this story so far, please take just 1 second to drop a like and leave a comment. It really helps us keep creating these stories for you, and we genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, let's get back to.
2 weeks before move-in, Kristen called. "Family meeting Sunday, everyone needs to be there." "What's it about?" "You'll see." I had a bad feeling, but I showed up. Everyone was there again, the whole extended family production. But this time, the vibe was different. Formal. Tense. Dad stood at the head of the table. "We've been discussing the living arrangements," he said, "and we think it's time to make some changes." Here it comes, I thought. "Cabot, you've been here almost 2 years now. We think it's time you found your own place." I kept my face neutral. "Okay." Mom leaned forward. "We'd like you to be out by the end of next month. That gives you 6 weeks to find something." Kristen smiled, all fake sympathy. "We know it'll be tight, but we can't keep subsidizing your living situation indefinitely." Subsidizing. Like I wasn't paying rent. Like I was a burden they generously tolerated. "And," Dad continued, "we'll need you to cover this month's rent in full before you go, plus a cleaning deposit for the garage space." "How much?" $3,000. My entire savings. The money I'd scraped together before Ramon's gift. They wanted to take it all before I left. I smiled. "That's fine." They blinked, clearly expecting a fight. "I'll have it to you by Friday." Mom frowned. That's good. That's very responsible. "Is that all?" "Well, yes, but..." "Great. See you Friday." I stood, took Ash's hand, and walked out. In the car, Ash looked up at me. "Are we leaving?" "Yes, baby. We're getting our own place." "Just us?" "Just us." He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. Good. That Friday, I handed my parents a cashier's check for $3,000. I also handed them a letter, formally notifying them of my move-out date, 10 days from now, exactly 1 day before my new lease started. "This is very sudden," Mom said. "You gave me 6 weeks. I only need 2. Dad frowned. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere closer to Ash's school." "You should tell us the address for emergencies." "I'll text it to you after we're settled." I wouldn't, but they didn't need to know that yet. The next 10 days were a blur, packing every spare moment, loading my car trunk by trunk, moving things to a storage unit. My coworkers helped, bless them, showing up on a Saturday to help move furniture in a borrowed truck. On moving day, my parents weren't home. Convenient. Kristen drove by once, slowing to watch us load boxes, but she didn't stop. By sunset, the garage was empty. I cleaned it top to bottom, took photos of every corner, left the key on the kitchen counter with a note. "Garage cleaned and cleared. Thank you for your hospitality." Then Ash and I drove to our new apartment. It was small. The carpet was a little worn. The kitchen was outdated, but it was ours. 2 bedrooms, which meant Ash had his own space for the first time in his life. We'd painted his room Rams blue and gold. He had a bed, a dresser, space for his toys. That night, after we'd unpacked enough to be functional, Ash sat on his bed and looked around his room. "Is this really mine?" "Really yours." "Elsie can't take it?" "Nope. This is your room in your home." He lay back, spreading his arms wide. "It's perfect." I kissed his forehead. "You're perfect." I thought that would be the end of it. We'd moved out, cut the physical ties, started fresh. I was wrong. The attack started 3 days later. The first message came through the family group chat. "Can't believe C just left without a proper goodbye. So disrespectful after everything we did for her." Then, "Some people just don't appreciate family." Then, "I guess we know where we stand. Years of helping, and this is the thanks we get?" I muted the chat, but kept screenshots, documentation. Then Kristen started calling. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, each one progressively more aggressive. "You're being ridiculous. Mom is hurt. You owe her an apology. You're tearing this family apart. Everyone thinks you're being selfish." Delete, delete, delete. But I saved them all. A week after we moved, my parents showed up at my engineering firm's office. The receptionist called my desk, confused. "Your parents are here? They don't have an appointment." "Tell them I'm in a meeting." "They say it's urgent." "Tell them to call my cell. I'll respond when I can." They left, but not before making a scene. My manager pulled me aside later. "Everything okay at home?" "Family drama. It's handled. If you need time off or resources, let me know." I appreciated that more than he knew. The breaking point came 2 weeks after our move. I got a call from Ash's school. My stomach dropped when I answered. "Miss Cabot, this is Principal Stevens. We need you to come to the school. There's been an incident." I broke traffic laws getting there, burst into the main office to find Ash sitting in a chair, crying, a teacher's hand on his shoulder. Across from him sat Kristen, looking composed and concerned. "What happened?" She gestured to her office. Once inside, with the door closed, she explained, "Your sister came to pick up Ash from school. She told the front desk she was authorized, that you'd called it in." "I did not." "We know. Ash's teacher realized something was wrong when she saw Ash being walked out. He was clearly distressed. We stopped your sister at the door." I looked at Kristen through the glass. She met my eyes, her expression unreadable. "Your sister claimed there was a family emergency, that you've been in an accident and asked to get Ash. When we called your cell, you answered immediately. Obviously, there was no accident. Attempted kidnapping. She tried to take my son. I want her banned from this campus," I said, my voice shaking. "She is not authorized to pick up Ash. Ever." "Already done. We've updated his file. We've also filed a report with the school district. Given the circumstances, we recommend you file a police report as well." "I will." They let me take Ash home. He clung to me the entire drive, silent. Once we were inside our apartment, safe behind locked doors, he finally spoke. "She said I wanted you to go with her." "I didn't. I would never." "I told them I didn't want to go, but she kept saying you said to." "You did the right thing. You told your teacher. You were so brave." He started crying again, big, gulping sobs. "I want to go back to Dad's." The words hit like a punch. "Baby, I don't like it here. I don't like them. I want to go somewhere safe." I held him, my own tears falling. "We are safe. I promise. They can't get to you here." But he didn't believe me. How could he? They tried to take him from school. That night, after Ash cried himself to sleep, I sat at my kitchen table and made a decision. I called a lawyer. Her name was Miss Rams, highly recommended by a colleague. I told her everything. Sent her photos, Hewitt's report, Kristen's voicemails, the school incident report. She listened without interrupting. "You need a restraining order," she said when I finished, "against all of them." "Will that work?" "The school incident alone is enough. The pattern of harassment, the photo manipulation as psychological abuse of a minor, the attempted unauthorized pickup, we have multiple grounds. I can file tomorrow." "How much will this cost?" She named a figure that made me wince, but not impossible. "I can do a payment plan." "Do it." The restraining order was filed that week, temporary at first, pending a hearing. It barred my parents, Kristen, and Greg from contacting me or Ash, from coming within 100 yards of us, our home, Ash's school, or my workplace. The explosion that followed was nuclear. My phone lit up with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Family friends telling me I was tearing the family apart, that I was being dramatic, that I needed to forgive and move on. I blocked them all. Uncle Ramon called. "Your mother is losing her mind." "Good. Hold the line." "I'm trying." "You're doing more than trying. You're winning." The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, I documented everything. Every call, every text from unknown numbers, every time someone from their circle tried to contact me. All of it went to Ms. Rams. 2 days before the hearing, my mother sent an email. It went to my work address, probably because I'd blocked her everywhere else. The subject line, "Please, let's talk." The body, "Tabit, I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. Families have disagreements, but this is extreme. Those photos were never meant to hurt anyone. Kristen was just trying to make nice pictures for the Christmas cards. You're blowing this out of proportion." As for the school incident, that was a misunderstanding. Kristen was trying to help. She thought you needed support. You're making her out to be a monster when she was only trying to be there for Ash. Please drop this restraining order. It's embarrassing for all of us. People are asking questions. This makes you look vindictive and unstable. Think about how this affects Ash, having his family torn apart like this. If you won't do it for me, do it for your son. He needs his grandparents. He needs his family. Love, Mom. I forwarded it to Ms. Rams without responding. Her reply, "Perfect. She just gave us harassment during an active restraining order process. This helps us." The hearing was everything I expected and worse. My parents showed up with their own lawyer, a slick guy in an expensive suit. They looked like the victims, sitting in the courtroom with wounded expressions. Kristen cried on the stand. "I just wanted to help. I love my nephew. I don't understand why she's doing this." My mother testified about how I'd always been difficult, sensitive, prone to overreacting. "We gave her a place to live for 2 years. This is how she thanks us?" My father talked about family values, about forgiveness, about how children need grandparents. Then it was my turn. Ms. Rams presented everything. The photos blown up on a screen so everyone could see Ash's absence, Hewitt's forensic report explaining in detail how professional and intentional the manipulation was, the voicemails from Kristen, played for the court, the school incident report with the principal statement, and my testimony. I kept my voice steady as I explained what it felt like to watch my 6-year-old son ask why he wasn't good enough to be in pictures, how he'd been sleeping in a garage while his cousin had 2 bedrooms, how I'd paid rent but been treated like a charity case, how they'd tried to take him from school without my permission. This isn't about disagreement. It's about protecting my son from people who have made it clear they don't value him, don't see him, and actively erase him from family memory. I'm not tearing the family apart. I'm keeping my child safe. The judge took 2 days to decide. When the ruling came, it was decisive. 3-year restraining order. No contact, no proximity. Violations would result in immediate arrest. I walked out of that courthouse with Ash's hand in mine, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. 6 months later, Uncle Ramon invited us to his house for Thanksgiving. Real family, he said, the kind that doesn't erase you. His home was warm, full of laughter and cousins Ash had never met, people who asked him about school, about the ram season, about his favorite things, people who took photos and made sure he was in every single one. At dinner, Ramon raised his glass. To family, the real kind, the kind you choose and the kind that chooses you back. We clinked glasses. Ash, with his apple juice, grinned so wide I thought his face would break. Later, as we helped clean up, Ramon pulled me aside. "Your mother called me last week." My stomach tightened. "What did she want?" "To complain about the restraining order, to tell me you'd brainwashed me, to insist she's the victim." He snorted. "I told her she made her choices and now she gets to live with them." "How did she take that?" "About as you'd expect. Hung up on me." I shrugged. I'm too old to care. Through the window, I could see Ash playing with Ramon's grandkids, actually playing, running around, laughing, being a kid. "He looks happy," Ramon said. "He is. We both are." "Good. That's all that matters." He was right. My parents had lost everything they thought mattered. Control, the family narrative, their perfect photos. But they'd really lost what actually mattered, their grandson. Kristen lost too. Word got around about the restraining order, about why. Parents at Elsie's school started asking questions. Invitations dried up. Greg's business partners got uncomfortable. Their perfect image cracked. And me? I gained everything. A home where Ash has his own room, peace, space to breathe, a chosen family that actually shows up. Last month, Ash asked if we could get the photo from the Rams game, the real one, before the editing, printed. I pulled it up on my phone. There we all were, the whole family, and there was Ash. Front row, yellow jersey, bright smile, nachos in hand. "This one?" I asked. "Yeah. Can we frame it for my room?" "Absolutely." It hangs above his bed now, proof that he was there, that he mattered, that he was never the problem. They tried to erase him. Instead, they erased themselves. And we've never been happier.